And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on the Staples Network, the show that provides research and statistics all about the Detroit and Michigan sports teams, whether fans like it or not, and detects and exposes and reveals actual and hidden facts and truth that the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. I'm Taylor Phillips, along with Frank Vasner. Ed Smith's still on some moving priorities. Follow me on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at DT2Phillips. Follow Frank Vasner on Periscope, Twitter, and Instagram at Frank_Vasner. Follow the show on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Also like its Facebook page, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Check out its website, the MichiganSportsTruthPodcast.com. Scour the Staples Network's website, primetimewiththestablesnetwork.com, and subscribe to its YouTube channel. Also like the Staples Network's Facebook page, and follow it on Twitter at Staples Network and on Instagram at The Staples Network. Plus, listen to it on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, CastBox, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, and Blog Talk Radio. The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast does not represent or defame any of the teams it covers, nor does it represent or compete against any of the mainstream media in the state of Michigan. It is also not for entertainment or debating purposes. It only detects, exposes, and reveals honest, actual, and hidden truth facts and statistics about them because the truth is out there. Got a few topics to discuss. We'll take it a little bit slow here tonight with them and go harder on them as best we can. But first off, we would like to pay a tribute to Kobe Bryant, one of the all-time greats in the NBA, always a Los Angeles Laker. We heard that at the age of 41, he passed away after being involved in a helicopter crash along with his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, who also died. It's very, very tragic all around the world, trending, Frank. We want to pass our condolences to the rest of his family, our prayers, our thoughts, and to every fan of Kobe Bryant and the Lakers organization. Even though we're Pistons fans, even that any as a Piston fan, I have never hated Kobe Bryant. I know there are a lot of Piston fans who used to hate him when he was playing for the Lakers, and just because he played for the Lakers. But seriously, people are human beings, and they're good human beings for a reason. Even though, despite all the mistakes they make, Kobe Bryant was a jewel in basketball. The next Michael Jordan, the modern day Michael Jordan, if you will, mind you. So, Frank, I want your take on Kobe Bryant. Just pass the tissues along.
Well, I mean, look, I can't lie on this one. When I first found out about the news when TMZ reported it, my first thoughts were, please God, let this be fake. And I think once I saw the tweet from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, that's when reality set in for me. And I mean, look, it was really tough. It was tough for me to swallow because, Kobe Bryant was somebody who I grew up watching. Even though he played for the Lakers, I always respected and admired his game and liked how he played the game. And even when he got a couple of championships in the late 2000s, it kind of made me respect him more. Or in the fact that he was on his way to a basketball camp with his daughter and I guess one of his daughter's teammates among a few others. It just shows how fragile life is, and you have to appreciate every moment you have, especially with those you love. And I mean, it's not just the fact that we lost one of the all-time greats in the game of basketball. You have to remember that Kobe's wife lost her husband and one of her daughters, and Kobe's other three daughters lost their dad and a sister. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I know what it's like to lose a family member like that because I don't. But I can tell you, I can tell you, I have lost friends ends tragically and unexpectedly very young. And it's honestly a lot tougher of a pill to swallow than someone who, whose time on this, excuse me, on this earth is not for long. But I mean, like I said, it just goes to show how fragile life is. And, I really have to give a tip of my cap to everyone around the NBA for just trying to persevere and pay their respects, whether it be with shot clock violations, whether it's with players wearing in Kobe's number 8 or 24. It's just, and all the other things going on. I'm just amazed at how much class is being shown by all the teams in the association.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. That's even more tragic than I've witnessed. All those family tragedies and losing even more members of his family. Man, that's just tough. Yeah, since then it's been a rough week.
Yeah, it has. But again, I mean, you have to admire everyone for just trying to continue to go on. I mean, the NBA probably could have canceled all their Sunday games, but they didn't, because canceling games really, I mean, it's kind of a touchy
Or
subject.
postponing them.
Yeah, I know Lakers and Clippers postpone. I mean, that one I kind of understand, because the Lakers front office, Jeanie Buss, Rob Pelinka, and everybody there, they all had a close relationship with him, and for them, it's going to take a lot longer to heal. But for other teams that had players who had played against Kobe or knew him very well, I think they realized, postponing our game to another day isn't going to bring him back, and he'd want us to just keep playing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so does everyone else. Yeah. So in tribute to him, they did 24-second violations and 8-second half court violations to honor him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's very thoughtful of the NBA, including the Pistons, who paid tribute. Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin.
Yeah, the Pistons all had jerseys that had the number 24 on them in warm-ups. So, and I guess I even found online that there's wristbands that were being sold as well, just memorializing Kobe, and all 100% of the proceeds are going to go to the Kobe Bryant Foundation.
Yep. So with that being said, speaking of basketball, we transitioned to college basketball, and then we'll get back to the NBA. Our exclusive top story on the same day, later that night, I got a source within the team. I don't know any of those guys personally down there, because I live up here in northern Michigan, but and by the way, I just got a final. The Brooklyn Nets beat the Pistons 125-115. By the way, anyway, I got word that according to a source, Michigan guard Xavier Simpson was suspended indefinitely by head coach Juwan Howard for violating team rules. But I learned from 9 and 10 News and My Sports Now that it was only one game at Nebraska. Yeah, he violated team rules. We were the first to report it exclusively, and we nailed it on the head, because reports from other media outlets like the University of Michigan Athletics and the Wolverines and Brennan F. Quinn at the Athletic reported it too. I know I didn't get credit just because I reported it first. It was an exclusive report. I'm not worried at all. I just but this is another one of my accomplishments. But that being said, despite not having Xavier Simpson on their active roster, the Wolverines beat Nebraska on the road 79-68, despite shooting 16 of 24 free throws after losing to Penn State 72-63, in which in a game where they shot 12 of 21 from the free throw line from the stripe. So that makes 28 out of 45 from the free throw line. That's something they still need to improve, win or lose. Free throws are very detrimental, especially in the clutch.
You're exactly right on that one, Taylor. I've said it myself, being on a high school staff, and I hear our coaches say it all the time. Games are won and lost at the free throw line, and Michigan had struggled. That's been their Achilles heel. I mean, they hit 16 out of 24 tonight. Right. So, of course, Nebraska only got to the line 12 times and made only 7 free throws. So, they ended up kind of getting. I think those 9 free throws that Michigan made actually helped make a difference in this one. And I'll go over some stats with everyone. Brandon Johns, 16 points on 5 of 6 shooting, so not a bad night for him.
Nope.
John Teskey, 9 points. He kind of had a little off. Franz Wagner, I think, really picked up his game after he kind of had a stinker from the last couple. He had 18 on 8 of 15 shooting. David DeJulius, who basically started for Simpson, only 5 points on 1 of 7 shooting, but he only turned it over once. So at least he wasn't too terrible. And Eli Brooks ended up leading the team in minutes played with 39, scored 20 points, 6 of 12 shooting, 4 for 10 from the long line, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block shot, and also grabbed 9 rebounds. So he kind of stepped into a bigger role. Owen stepped up as well, and for the rest of the bench, I think this is going to be kind of a recurring problem. Michigan doesn't really have much off their bench either, because this. I'm not sure. I'm going to click on it because I don't know who he is. Adrian Nunez. He ended up playing the most minutes off the bench. He played 17 minutes, only had 3 points. Austin Davis also only had 3 points. Points off the bench as well. He only played 4 minutes. CJ Baird, 8 minutes. No, did not score. And Colin Castleton also played for 4 minutes and had 5 points off the bench. So I think look, it's a win Michigan needed. Although, let's be honest, Nebraska is the worst team in the Big Ten, not named Northwestern. So it was a game that they should have won. They did. They went out and took care of business. As for the rest of the season for the Wolverines, it's not going to get any easier. Saturday, they're home against Rutgers, who is ranked. Raise your hand if you thought that was going to happen. And then it's home.
Ranked where?
Yeah, Rutgers is ranked 25th in the nation.
Oh, okay. Just barely.
Yeah. They're Rutgers a top 25 basketball team. Okay, no reasonable person would have said that's going to happen at the start of the season. But I'll give them credit. They have played some good basketball, so we'll see what happens on Saturday. That's a 4:30 tip on BTN. And then on February 4th, which is a Tuesday night, they will.
By the way, they're not the football team. They're not the football team, though. By the way, yeah. So continue.
They will end up hosting the Ohio State Buckeyes, 7:00 tilt on ESPN2. Ohio State has kind of been like Michigan. They peaked early on, and then they've kind of just petered out. So that'll be an interesting game. And then also they do host Michigan State on November 8th. So that being said, I assume we'll now transition to Michigan State.
Yep. Michigan State, they got back on their horse. Even though they dropped from 11 to 13 to 14 in the AP poll, they're still in the top 15. They beat Minnesota on the road 70 to 52, and then they took good care of Northwestern 79 to 50 earlier tonight. I think that was at home at the Breslin Center against those Northwestern Wildcats.
Yes, that was a home game and pretty much a good typical Michigan State performance, balanced attack. I mean, Cassius Winston was Cassius Winston, 18 points, 6 of 12 shooting. Xavier Tillman had 12. I mean, Izzo did tinker with the lineup before Sunday's game against Minnesota, where he put Malik Hall into the lineup. So that's something that was kind of interesting. It's kind of helped him. Hall ended up with 6 points. Gabe Brown had 7. Aaron Henry 6. Foster Loyer had 12 points off the bench. So I mean, I'll be honest, Foster Loyer has kind of made me eat a little bit of crow, because when I watched him last season, I was like, there is no way this guy is able to play in the Big Ten Conference. And, he's actually went and worked hard and gotten rewarded for it. All right, so, and then pretty much it was a lot. Julius Marble had 6 points. I know people were kind of up in arms about him getting a technical foul, but I'm going to be that guy and just say, by rule, he hung on the rim, and then he pulled himself up ever so slightly, so that's why he got teed, which you can't do by rule. I know he wasn't doing it to be demonstrative, and he didn't want to land on the player from Northwestern, but, the letter of the law is the letter of the law. So there's that. I mean, they took care of business. 13 of 14 from the free throw line.
Really good. Whoa.
And that's pretty good. That's very good as well. 21 assists on 27 made buckets. So Michigan State ends up handling their business. And as for next week, this kind of gets a little bit interesting. They do have to go to Wisconsin on Saturday for 1:00 tip on Fox. Now, this is usually going to the Kohl Center is always tough to play at. However, there was news today that Wisconsin's second leading scorer Kobe King has left the team and intends to transfer. I haven't heard as to why, so that's probably going to affect the way Wisconsin plays. And then they're going to be home against Penn State, who was ranked 24th in the nation on Tuesday. That'll be an 8:00 tip on BTN. That could be a toughie as well. Penn State's got some solid players that can cause some matchup problems, but February for the Spartans doesn't really get any easier, because after Penn State, it's back-to-back road trips to Ann Arbor to play Michigan, and then on the road to Champaign to play Illinois. So then home against Maryland, and really the only gimme on their schedule is a trip to Nebraska on February 20th. So February is going to be a pretty tough month for the Spartans.
Yeah, but tonight they play like a team, and they're going to have to keep that up heading into the month of February.
Yep.
So
we'll see how it goes, especially on Saturday in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah, Cassius Winston with 2 straight 18-point games. Those are at least really good, if not great. I know Cassius Winston has had his fair share of scoring more than 20 points per game and scoring more than 30 in one game this season, before having his down games right before his recent 2 straight 18-point games. Everyone has peaks and valleys, but you know how great Cassius Winston usually is. He's also a team player. He got 8 assists in that game against let's see here,
Minnesota.
Minnesota Golden Gophers. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and also quick note about Michigan State's next game. I mentioned Wisconsin has already had Kobe King leave the team. Wisconsin will also be without Brad Davison, who's one of their starting guards, who was suspended for an incident that happened in Wisconsin's last game. So just a quick little note about that.
Yep. So, yeah, Michigan State. Now we can compare the free throw shootings between Michigan and Michigan State. Michigan State, 13 of 14 free throw shooting. I think it was tonight. You said
yes
against Northwestern.
Yes,
yeah. That's way better than Michigan's free throw shooting as of recently. Their last two games, like I pointed out, 20 out of 45. The last 45, not good enough.
Yeah, got to be a lot better at that. And I think we have to see what Andy Katz Joe Lunardi has in his bracketology. I believe the one you shared from CBS had Michigan on the outside looking in. I'm currently looking at Lunardi's, and I do not see Michigan anywhere in here. Actually, they are. They're one of the last four teams to get a bye, according to Lunardi. If the tournament was to start today, they would be, looks like on the, okay, maybe not. I'm looking. Yeah, shoot, I'm not able to see them. I'm thinking they're on the 11 or 10 line somewhere, and I'm not seeing them. But anyways, they're gonna have to keep stringing together wins and find ways to win games and get better at free throws. Otherwise, they're gonna go from being one of the last four buys to a last four in, or maybe one of the first four out. Taylor, are you still there?
Yeah, my bad. I had myself on mute. Yeah, if they don't improve their free throw shooting, they're going to keep losing. By the way, and then they'll probably drop out earlier of that big dance, maybe out of the NIT.
Okay, and also a correction to what I said earlier. I did find them. They would be, according to Lunardi, they would be a 9 seed in the West region playing USC in the first round. Again, this is all Joe Lunardi, so it's completely unofficial. It's just what he would project at this point in time.
In bracketology, in the big dance?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I just wanted to look that up. Michigan State, for the record, would be a 3 seed in the South region going against Arkansas Little Rock in St. Louis.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Michigan State or Michigan?
Michigan State.
Yeah, Michigan State, the Spartans. Arkansas Little Rock.
Yeah, that's Lunardi. Again, this is all Lunardi's projections, so it's just what he thinks, not to be taken as gospel.
Yep. Yep. That's. Yeah. I think I remember Michigan State and Arkansas Little Rock playing each other, one another. I think probably in the first or second round in the big dance about years ago. Or at least a few years ago. I can't really remember which exact year.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't remember them doing it I don't remember them doing it this decade. Or the last decade, I should say.
Yeah. I've had a long history of watching the big dance, the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament every single year.
Yeah.
But lately I've lost my memory on some of that. But
I will actually, quick note, I'll actually be in Cleveland for the first and second round of the tournament. That'll be on March 20th and 22nd. So hopefully I can score hoping to score some tickets to those games, and who knows, maybe we'll see Michigan State or Michigan there, and we'll see what happens.
Yep, we'll have to see what happens. So, yeah. Now we transition to the NBA. The Pistons, they lose 125-115 at the Brooklyn Nets. Their defense still lacking, especially at their own three-point line. M-Line was headlining that the Pistons were looking to improve their perimeter defense. I don't even know what that means, but they're
improved their 3-point defense, and
yeah, that's what
they allowed Brooklyn to hit 15 of 39 3-point attempts tonight. But as a team, the Pistons were 10 out of 26 from the long line, and few numbers for you. Derrick Rose leads them in scoring in 31 minutes, 22 points, 9 to 15 shooting. Payne was a minus 10 player efficiency rating. Andre Drummond, 12 points, 13 rebounds. Let's see who else. Christian Wood had 20 points off the bench. Reggie Jackson had 23 off the bench. And Markieff Morris had 15 off the bench. Those are the only players in double figures. Bruce Brown, 6. Tony Snell, 6. Langston Galloway, 8. Svi Mikhailuk had 3 points. Sekou Doumbouya played 8 minutes and did not score. Not sure if he was just benched or if he got hurt. I haven't heard anything. And so that's really what happened there. And, of course, the Pistons got lit up by former Piston Spencer Dinwiddie, who dropped 28.
Yeah, that's Spencer Dinwiddie for you.
Yep.
So, yeah, the Pistons, I believe they have dropped to 11th place now. They were in 10th in the East. Just a half game ahead of the Charlotte Hornets. The Pistons were going in 17-31. The Hornets 16-31. Now the Pistons have dropped to 17-32. So
they are currently tied with they're currently tied with the Hornets right now, and they're a half game up on the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, the Hornets would hold the tiebreaker, like I was trying to point out just now.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's pretty much they're all pretty much the same thing. But yeah, that's what I was going to point out. The Pistons just keep finding ways to lose. That's all.
Well, look, they need to so they can have a chance at getting the lottery pick. And as for the rest of their schedule, we'll see who they have up next. They will be playing at home against the Toronto Raptors. There's 7:00 tip, and then on Sunday they'll have 12:30 tip against the Denver Nuggets, and then before our next show they'll be at Memphis on Monday at 8:00, and they'll be home against the Phoenix Suns the following Wednesday.
Home against the Phoenix Suns. That's a 7:00 tip off. The Raptors are the defending NBA champions, by the way. But the Suns, they're awful. The Nuggets, they're a really good team. So the Pistons have tough schedules this upcoming week.
Yeah, the Grizzlies are at 500, but I think they're actually pretty solid.
Yeah, the Pistons played the Grizzlies last time, and the Grizzlies won.
Yeah,
Can't remember
that
what
would.
score, but yeah,
I'm currently looking at that one right. Trying to find that one. It wouldn't have been. It wasn't in October, November, December, January. Yeah, it would have been January 24th. They lost 125 to 112.
I see. Gotcha. 125 to 112. So, yeah, that's another game in which the Pistons have given up 125 points, along with their game tonight in Brooklyn at Barclays Center. So, speaking of the Pistons, yes, they've been trying to sell, despite trying to fight for a playoff spot. I can't believe I'm saying it, putting it all this way. I don't. I probably know it's not the first time that people like us have said this, but I know the Pistons have been trying to shop Derrick Rose, Andre Drummond, and Blake Griffin, and Luke Kennard, and Langston Galloway, and others. Which brings us to this article from ESPN about this love affair between Detroit and Andre Drummond being about to come to an end. It tells us all about this history of Andre Drummond's tenure on the Detroit Pistons roster after they drafted him, and on the same year when Drummond first joined the Pistons, this whole Detroit versus everybody thing got started. Let me pull that up on the Chrome website. Got to look at that guy's name. It
was Eric Woodyard from ESPN.
Eric Woodyard from ESPN. Yep. That's not what I was looking for. Let me see here. Tommy Walker.
Tommy Walker, yeah.
Yeah, Tommy Walker founded the Detroit versus everybody clothing brand. And it started it was driven by this Detroit versus everybody mentality, which at first I didn't understand about this whole thing until fans and players of the Lions, and maybe the Pistons as well, started using that against the referees and the league, and that just spelled nothing but homerism. And I was already the first to never accept such a thing, and it's just crazy in Detroit. This is how the sensitivity in Detroit that has lasted for so many years, from back in time through now, has transcended to an even more further escalating point where Detroit is fed up with everybody, including the officials in the league. Well, because they only think they got screwed over many times, when no, they have not. And that's always been the issue with Detroit.
And to that point, Taylor, there's been many a times I've made this, and I'm gonna do it again right here. Yeah, there's been calls that have gone Detroit team's way that I didn't think were very good. Well, you know what? That's not the reason why you lost. It's because you didn't make enough plays to win. Don't blame it on officials when you lose. I've been taught that many a time. I teach it to everybody. Hey, you don't like it, play above it. That's all.
Well, definitely. But this story continuing on, it's how this Detroit versus everybody mentality and Andre Drummond so easily collaborated from a mental standpoint, and that's what made it transcend throughout the city of Detroit. It even spread through the Lions and even the Tigers and the Red Wings. And at least in my mind, it's every single time I get crap like that, I feel like I want to puke.
I will admit a lot. When I first saw it, I kind of didn't think too much. I was like, okay, somebody just trying to do some marketing, make a buck. Now it's every time I see it, to me, it's just basically beating a dead horse. So I mean,
Yeah.
I pay no attention to it. I don't give them any of my attention. Don't give them any of my time. They want to sell their product to somebody else. Okay. I'm just not going to spend my money on it.
No, it's not worth anybody's money. It's not worth anyone's life. Yet
Exactly.
people in Detroit continue to be sensitive children just for the teams that they love.
They reap what they sow.
Yeah. And they still don't realize it. So, so they just decide to lash out at the league, and the officials and other stuff. They just don't care. They simply do not care. A lot of people in Detroit are a bunch of attention hogs, mind you. They just want attention. They just want to buy time just for themselves and for the city of Detroit, which has gone through bankruptcy, and it's been going through a lot of bad stuff over the years. And remember when Detroit went bankrupt in 2013, Chapter 9 filed for Chapter 9 bankruptcy?
Yep, I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the old DSR podcast between Jeff Moss at the Detroit Sports Rag and Michael Bohanec. I'm pretty sure that's gone by now, but Blog Talk Radio must have taken that away because of Jeff Moss's personal Blog Talk Radio plan. Mind you, it used to that episode, August 8th, 2013, used to exist, but now it's vanished into thin air because Blog Talk Radio set new terms and conditions to their policies. They've changed everything up with their plan sales and everything. That's the reason why the episode disappeared, along with the episode on other feeds such as Castbox. But they were talking about the Detroit Tigers sweeping the Cleveland Indians, and then to extend their winning streak to 12. And Jeff Moss and Michael Bohanec Moss especially went crazy about Phil Koch getting outpitched by Ryan Rayburn. and then Jim Leland's horrid moves by using Don Kelly and taking Miguel Cabrera out of a close game. That was game 3 of that 4-game series. That game went to extra innings, probably like at least 12 innings. And Cabrera being taken out of the game. That's what baffled Jeff Moss and Michael Bohanec. The Tigers could have used Miguel Cabrera. I know they won that game too. They swept the 4-game series. I get that. I'll give that to them. But there was still room for improvement, especially from a mental standpoint, on the hands of the team's manager, Jim Leland, who again took Miguel Cabrera out of the game when he could have used him, and then he played Miguel Cabrera 9 full innings in a 10-3 game. It was 10-1 initially going into the bottom of the ninth. Ryan Rayburn pitched the scoreless top half of the ninth inning, and then Phil Koch gave up 2 runs before that thing was all said and done. That's those 2 things really got Jeff Moss screaming. I don't know if you've listened to that episode or ever listened to that episode or not, but
I don't believe I ever have.
So many times, constantly.
I have heard Moss scream on Periscope many a time. I think probably the most I remember was after the Tigers traded JD Martinez for whatever they got from Arizona. That's the one I remember.
Double logo.
Yeah. And then I think there was the Al Avila extension this past summer. I remember both you and him.
Last summer. Now this is 2020.
Yeah, this would have been last summer when the Al Avila extension was announced, and both of you guys kind of went in on, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah. Even Chris Castellani showed his disappointment, but I took the angst towards the Al Avila extension and sports ranting to the next level. I'm pretty sure you've watched that.
Oh yes,
like you mentioned before.
Oh yes, I do remember that quite well. That was a pretty tough day for me. I was in the process of heading over to my cousin's house in Monroe to go house and dog sit while they were out of town, and then I find this news out, and I just was so beside myself I couldn't even speak. That's just how furious I was, and I just decided, you know what? Excuse me. I'll just let you and Moss go in, and I'll just back up everything you guys say.
Yeah, there was still no details of that multi-year contract extension signed by Chris freaking Ilitch, of all people. I am still baffled by it after all those months.
Same here. But again, Taylor, you've heard me say this many a time. I'll say it again. Chris Ilitch has become Jeffrey Loria 2.0. The former disgraced Miami Marlins owner. That's what he's turned into. Nothing like his dad. He's only in it just for the money. He doesn't care if he's putting a garbage product out on the field. And hopefully someday it changes, but unfortunately we're just stuck where we are, and we'll just keep firing away and figuratively throwing tomatoes at him.
Tomatoes and lettuce, like people threw at the Penguin in Batman Returns after Bruce Wayne and Alfred played some audio over the speakers saying, "Just relax, I'll take care of those squealing wretched pinhead puppets of Gotham." And then you gotta admit, I played this stinking city like a harp from hell. And they would repeat it over and over, and the fans started were in disbelief, and then they started booing, and then they threw the lettuce and tomatoes at the Penguin before he did some machine gun shooting with his umbrella, and then made his escape back to his own sewer lair in the cold.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I need to show you that video. I need to send you that video.
Yeah, I believe that's from Batman Forever, is it not?
No, Batman Returns.
Oh, Batman Returns. Yeah,
that was in 92 or something like that.
My apologies. I I knew it was. I knew. Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, I've got to watch
Yeah,
it.
the Penguin.
Batman.
Yeah.
Batman Forever was the one with the Riddler and Two Face.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, because
One of my
I watched.
best.
Yeah,
Very
I've seen
comedic.
that one.
Jim Carrey. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, the Red Wings, 12-35-4, 28 points. They've had a hell of a long All-Star break, mind you. They're off until Friday when they visit the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden at, I believe, 7:00. Yeah, 7:00. They're home against the Rangers Saturday to complete a home-and-home set at 7:00. And then on Monday, they're home against the Philadelphia Flyers before our next episode. Then they get 2 days rest, and then they play their next game after that. So the Red Wings still very in line for that number one overall pick heading to the lottery.
Yeah. Yeah, as you mentioned, 12-35-4, minus 90 in goal differential, worst in the league by a country mile. They're at minus 90, and the next closest would be New Jersey, who's at minus 46. So I'll actually pull their schedule. I'll pull their schedule up right now. You mentioned they will be, they're at Madison Square Garden on Friday, and they're home on Saturday to complete a home and home. The Philly, and then the rest of February, you've got trips to Buffalo, Columbus. Then there's another 3-game road trip coming up in February after a home visit from the Bruins. So I mean, there's games against teams that are bad. Let's see, they will play at Ottawa at the end of the month. They should lose that one, but really the only game where I would see them winning is against the Montreal Canadiens, who they seemingly just have inexplicably had their number this year. That'll be on February 18th.
Yeah.
But I don't think that'll hurt them too much because they're so far down the standings. If they win one game in the month of February, it's not gonna kill them. Their chances of landing the number one pick.
Yeah. No, probably not.
And then there was also, sorry.
Yeah, only the lottery can continue.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then I'll bring up the article I shared with you on The Athletic about how the Red Wings have cap space and where they can turn to make an asset. This
Less than 12 minutes, so go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, this is from Max Boltman of The Athletic, is also a co-host of Wings for Breakfast with Prashad Byer. Highly recommend that podcast to give a listen to. I know they just had a new fresh episode come out tonight. You can listen to that in the Athletic app. So, I mean, few possibilities that they could do. One thing they mentioned was taking on the corpse of David Backes, who has a $6 million cap hit. And even though it's buried in the minors because he got put on waivers. So they basically take him on for possibly get something in exchange for doing so. But the thing is, of course, taking on a bad contract. I know the Carolina Hurricanes, for example, they picked up a protected first-round pick from the Maple Leafs for taking on Patrick Marleau's $6.25 million cap hit last season. Well, that was, of course, because Toronto had to get Mitch Marner signed. But if the Bruins, I'm not sure the Bruins will end up throwing in a first rounder just to give the Wings to take on a pick. And plus, Boston's farm system is not very deep. I mean, their top three prospects, Jack Studnicka, John Beecher, and Urho Vakanainen. And then, of course, they have nearly every pick over the next 3 seasons except their fourth rounder in 2020. Hey, but I mentioned their system isn't very deep, so I don't think they'd be getting anybody top A deal that I would actually would be okay with, taking on Cody Cece, who technically isn't a corpse. He's actually played decent in Toronto. He's got a $4.5 million cap hit through 2020, but I think Cece possibly gets dealt somewhere as a rental if Toronto is out of it. And so who knows, if you take him on, you might be able to get Toronto to attach a mid-round pick. I'm not so sure that would be a good deal. Vancouver, he mentions taking on either the dead bodies of Sven Baertschi, who's got $3.366 million through 2021, or Louis Erickson's dead body, which is at $6 million through 2022. I'm not so sure you take that out, especially since you're trying to get back to being decent. And plus if you take on Louis Erickson's contract, he retires early, you end up getting hit with a recapture penalty. Okay, so who knows what ends up happening. And then this was kind of one that I found interesting. Taking on Kyle Turris's bad contract from the Predators. Turris is kind of just falling out of favor in Nashville with now head coach John Hines. The problem with Turris would be a decent pickup. He's only 31 right now, but his contract runs through 2024 and is a $6 million cap hit. Unless, of course, you were able to pawn off Franz Nielsen or even Justin Abdelkader's bad deal. So basically, bad contract for a bad contract swap. But Boltman mentions that when you look at the possibility that Detroit might actually need roster and cap space by 2023, it's kind of a huge undertaking. So it'll be interesting to see what Steve Yzerman does before the deadline. And of course, we'll see when the first big trade domino ends up falling, which will likely be once we get into February. And then probably once that happens, then we'll start seeing more and more and more happen. And who knows who he ends up moving out, especially who's got an expiring contract. I mean, I've said move Jimmy Howard out, get something in return for him, but the fact that he's played terrible, probably won't get much of anything. Mike Green is probably your best chance to get, or Trevor Daley's probably someone you're going to get for in return. I mentioned that last week, so only time's going to tell. We'll see what Steve Yzerman does.
Yep. So definitely, let me pull the article up myself here. By the way, we are broadcasting live on Twitch. The Michigan Sports Truth podcast is on the Staples Network on Twitch. David Backes is getting old. Cody Cece, a defenseman. Sven Baertschi. Yeah. Kyle Turris.
I mean, Turris was the most interesting name I saw, but I mean, I think he'd be that would be fine. I think that would be something to take on if you're willing to get Nashville take on Franz Nielsen or Justin Abdelkader. The problem is Turris's contract runs through 2024, and that's basically eating up $6 million through then. So, and plus Turris's production has kind of fallen off, but then again, he might need a change of scenery. It's interesting, but probably not something you'd see Steve do, but we'll see what he does.
Yep. Well, got like 5 and change minutes. Why don't we go to our closing statement right now? Frank, I'll give you like 3 minutes and then I'll have my closing statement. So go.
My closing statement is going to be about something that happens at the end of January every year, basically up in Canada, and that's Bell Let's Talk Day. Hey, I mean, a lot of our Canadian followers are listening. You see the Twitter hashtag, and it's basically a day to raise awareness for mental health. Now, in the light of recent events that have happened, especially the tragedy of Kobe Bryant, we here at the Michigan Sports Truth podcast are advocates of mental health awareness. And in times like these, the best thing that you can do is to be someone who will listen to someone who's going through something difficult. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've gone through the worst of times as well, but there's been rough situations I've dealt with, and I've seen friends go through it. And the most important thing you can do is be a friend to someone who's got some problems, whether they be work related, family related, with somebody who's one of their classmates at school. You can listen to somebody, stick up for them, and just be there for them. That's what we'll do. We've said plenty of times that we're advocates. We'll listen to anyone, and just tell you, hey, you pull through it, you'll be okay. There's always going to be tomorrow, but always remember, you're never alone.
Absolutely. So, yeah, my closing statement would be ditto right there by Frank Vasner. From here on forward, we will always remember Kobe Bryant the same way we remember Michael Jordan, two of the NBA's all-time greats, along with Julius Erving, Magic Johnson, and Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing. Yeah, even they were great too. Even though Patrick Ewing has never won any NBA championships. Shaquille O'Neal, when he won multiple championships with the Lakers and one with the Miami Heat, there's only one Shaquille O'Neal. There's only one Kobe Bryant. That's the point that I'm trying to get across. And the Pistons themselves respect those who paved the way for them, such as Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton, Chauncey Billups, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, to today's Pistons, Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin, Luke Kennard, Derrick Rose, still on the team, Reggie Jackson, all those guys. So it's more important than just basketball in today's times with the Pistons. You always gotta pay your salutes to the great ones, even the ones who passed away, such as Kobe Bryant, the most significant that trended all over the world this past Sunday. So with that being said, scour the Staples Network's primetime website, primetimewiththestaplesnetwork.com. Subscribe to its YouTube channel, and plus like the Staples Network on Facebook, follow it on Twitter and Periscope at Staples Network. Also follow the Staples Network on Instagram at the Staples Network. Also listen to it on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Castbox, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, and Blog Talk Radio, and listen to our episodes of the Michigan Sports Truth podcast on the Staples Network. Check out the Michigan Sports Truth's website, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast.com. Also like its Facebook page, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, and follow its Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Stay tuned for the XFL Huddle podcast, which comes in about less than a minute right here on the Staples Network. Then we'll be back here next Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully Ed Smith joins us. Hopefully he gets done with his moving priorities. Until then, on his behalf, you can follow him on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at EdSmith313. Follow me on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at DT2Phillips, and Frank Vasner on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Frank_Vasner. Next episode, Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Frank, thanks very much. And thanks very much to all our listeners out there for downloading and sharing. And remember, the truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Bon appetit. Hit him with the Hein. We rest our case.